you feel like Alandria and Nick's relationship is real? Is this you thinking, or is this your answer? I'm gonna assume that that's your answer. Is that tough for you because Alandria is someone that you consider to be a close friend?
Yeah, it really is tough for me because again, she just came out here for Shelly's birthday and we all spent a time together at the club and we all kicking and shit like that. So I have a lot of respect for Alandria. But again, from the last conversation that I've had with, Nick, it was a matter of it's not a romantic spark. They just, you know what I'm saying? They find each other attractive.
Nick and Alandria's relationship, you've expressed in silence, you've expressed your opinions on that. Do you think that the other relationships that have come from Love Island are real?
Yeah, Taylor and Clark. I know that's for sure real.
What?
It's okay, just breathe, just breathe.
What?
Okay, let's talk about this because I am genuinely shocked. Did you catch what just happened there? Ace, who claims to be one of Alandria's closest friends, sat down in this interview and when asked if Nick and Alandria's relationship is real, he couldn't even give a straight answer. He literally went silent. Now pause. This is the same man who, inside the villa, was hyping Nicolandria like their #1 shipper. He was telling Nick, that's what love's supposed to feel like, bro. But suddenly when the cameras are on him in a podcast, silence, doubt, public questioning. And here's why this matters. When you call yourself someone's friend, you don't throw gasoline on the same speculation and ridicule that made their lives harder outside the villa. That's not friendship, that's betrayal. By the way, I break down these Love Island receipts and behind-the-scenes drama all the time. So if you want the real tea, make sure you hit subscribe right now so you don't miss the next one.
And in the interview, Ace actually said that he was hurt by Nick and he's not close to him as much because Nick said that the people in the Final Four should have been the Final Four. So Ace took that as like, oh, Nick doesn't think me and Shelly deserve to be in the Final Four. It's like, bro, he probably just said that because it's like the Final Four is what it is. So that kind of just shows that Ace was actually jealous and resentful towards Nick and Alandria with how much fame and love that they got. He probably thought him and Shelly were supposed to have that level, which is like crazy because it's like I always had that in the back of my mind, but I didn't want to bring that up too much because like I liked their friendship, I like where it was going, and I was hoping it would last. But it's like everyone just always hates on Nick and Alandria, and I feel like if you're that bright of a star, there's always going to be people like that just want to dim their light and will be jealous. Sometimes they can't even help it. But yeah, this comment is right. I think they resent them. They thought that they'd have that Serena and Cordell. I mean, obviously everybody in the cast is a clout chaser to an extent, but it's like, Shelly and Ace have always wanted to be famous too, like, based on their previous backgrounds and what they've been doing on social media. So it makes sense why they're kind of like reacting like this. I won't group Shelly in with Ace just yet because we don't know how she feels towards it. Maybe Ace didn't even tell her about this. But this is why I like Nick and Alandria as a unit because they move together. They're always on the same page, always on the same topic. They don't lie. They keep it real. And it's like, bro, Ace just saying that he was mad at Nick for saying the Final Four should have been the Final Four just proves that Ace was salty he wasn't in the Final Four, even though he was acting like, oh, I already won, I got my Shelly. So it's like, yeah, so you're a clout chaser. You did want the clout. He's always trying to act like the bigger person, but it's like you're not. You're quite literally the shortest person, the smallest person there. And he's a hypocrite too. Because he's like, oh, people just don't say what they say behind closed doors. Like, that's literally what you did. Ace, you've proved time and time again that you're a liar. So please.
See, here's the thing that blows my mind. Ace is out here claiming he's a close friend. But let's not forget, this is the same man who literally coached someone on how to lead her on in the villa. Like, are we kidding? You helped dog her out on national TV? Then months later you get on a public podcast and question her relationship? If you actually cared about her, if you really considered yourself her friend, you'd pick up the phone. You'd say that to her face, in private. Not sit down on a mic and invite millions of people to pick apart her relationship again. That's not friendship. That's clout chasing. And let's be honest, Ace hasn't even spoken to Nick since Disney. That's almost 2 months of silence. 2 months where Nick and Alandria were growing in real life, traveling together, experiencing those defining moments. So Ace doesn't even know where they stand now. He has no clue, yet he's still out here stirring the pot like he does. That's what makes it so odd, because back in the villa, he was the loudest Nicolandria cheerleader. Outside, suddenly he flips. It's inconsistent, it's messy, and it makes him look way more jealous than concerned.
Today, who would you consider to be your friend from the villa?
Who I consider to be my friend is the people behind
those
closed
people?
doors. Alandria, obviously me and Shelly more than friends, and Taylor.
That's it.
Brian calls to check in on me from time to time to make sure I'm straight, and that's it.
The glaring omission there is Nick.
Yeah, and don't get me wrong, like me and Nick are cool, but like to say we are super close, like we were in the villa, it's not the case, you know, because again, certain instances, I take a look at it for what it is. Coming out this villa, I've seen a lot of people not stand behind what they say and let narratives continue to spin. The people who stood on what exactly happened in the villa after having all the conversations said today to when this interview drops, this is who my current people who are close to me. I respect Alandria, I respect Shelly, I respect Jeremiah, I respect Brian, and I respect Taylor. And I know you probably about to ask me about the whole Nick is not a part of that equation. It's just, again, certain things I don't rock with. I feel like if you're my friend behind closed doors, you're gonna be my friend in public.
Sure.
And again, we all have fun, we joke, we troll. I seen he did a whole tattoo thing, funny as hell. But when it comes to the serious shit regarding my character, that's the things I take serious.
And you feel like he didn't stand up for you and or silence narratives when he had the opportunity.
And I told him that. I told him, I said, yo, I feel like the answer that you gave was just mad PR, and I didn't respect it. And he was like, well, I'm pretty much over it. So I was like, okay, cool.
He said, I'm pretty much over it?
Yeah, I'm pretty much over the whole thing. Like, so like for me, this is my life, respectfully.
And here's where it just gets downright hypocritical. Ace sat there on that podcast acting like Nick never supported him, never had his back. But rewind for a second. Nick has been publicly, vocally supportive of Ace since they left the villa. He's been in Ace's comments, hyping him up. He even got that fake tattoo in the same font as Ace's, as a joke but still showing love. Meanwhile, Ace, silent, ignoring Nick's calls, not returning messages. And then out of nowhere, he hops on an interview and not only questions Nicolandria's relationship, but implies it's fake. Like, you haven't even spoken to this man in weeks, and suddenly you're the authority on his relationship. Please. And let's not forget, this is the same man who used to say, when Nick described how Alandria made him feel, bro, that's what love is supposed to feel like. That same Ace is now saying he doesn't believe in their spark? Nah, it doesn't add up. It looks more like resentment, more like bitterness than honesty. Because if you actually respected Nick as a friend, if you really respected Alandria, you'd never put them in a position to deal with this kind of public speculation all over again, especially when you already admitted those narratives nearly ruined your own relationship outside the villa. That's not just odd, that's cruel. Let's really break this down, because Ace's whole interview just screams contradictions. First off, he's out here saying he doesn't think Nick and Alandria's relationship is real, but the timeline doesn't even make sense. According to Ace himself, he hasn't spoken to Nick since right after Disneyland, which was months ago. Meanwhile, Nick and Alandria have been traveling, building their bond, even going to Greece and talking openly about how it changed their relationship. So how exactly does Ace know what's real now, if he hasn't even had a conversation with them since before all of that? He doesn't, which makes his comments less about truth and more about bitterness. And let's be real, this is the same man who was coaching guys in the villa on how to lead Alandria on. The same man who once called Nicolandria the strongest connection in there. He went from hyping them up in the villa to tearing them down outside of it. What changed? Not their relationship, his attitude, and that's where the jealousy seeps in. Remember, Ace admitted he was hurt when Nick said the Final Four should have been the Final Four. That's what triggered him. Instead of brushing it off, he took it as shade towards himself and Shell. But maybe Nick wasn't being shady at all. Maybe he was just acknowledging how things played out. Still, Ace clung to it like proof that Nick didn't respect him. That resentment simmered, and now we're seeing it boil over in this podcast. But here's what makes it worse. Ace knows firsthand what it feels like to have people publicly question your relationship. He said it himself. The rumors and narratives after the villa made his own journey harder. And yet, he chose to put Nick and Alandria in that exact same position, fully knowing how damaging it could be. That's not protecting a friend. That's throwing gasoline on the fire. And let's call it what it is. Ace and Shell wanted that Nicolandria level spotlight. They wanted to be the couple everyone rooted for, the faces of the season. But when that didn't happen, the resentment crept in. The more Nick and Alandria thrived, the more Ace pulled away, until finally he sat on that podcast and aired out doubts that feel less like honesty and more like jealousy dressed up as concern. At the end of the day, real friends don't invite negativity onto someone's relationship. They pick up the phone, they say it in private, and they stand behind their people in public. Ace didn't do that. And that's why this whole thing feels less like truth-telling and more like betrayal.
Y'all, I am so disappointed in Ace's interview with Speedy. Nothing on Speedy's behalf, but I am disappointed in how Ace sat on that interview and completely opened up the floodgates for Nick and Alandria to receive BS on the internet by saying that or remaining silent when asked if he believed in their relationship. Like, I totally get it. You feel like Nick did not stand up for you when he had a chance to, when he did interviews and, the whole nine. But regardless of how you feel, that doesn't mean that you take the stand in the interview and completely shit on your friend's relationship. And by friend, I mean Alandria, because he said he no longer considers Nick to be his friend. Like, if you really cared about the severity of your relationship and the bond that you have with Alandria, you wouldn't have sat on an interview and said what you said, or lack thereof. And I really like Ace. Like, I like him as a person. I loved him on the show. That's just completely disheartening that he went and did that.
And here's the part that really blows my mind. Nick has only ever been supportive of Ace. Go back and look. Nick was constantly in his comments, hyping him up. He got a fake tattoo in the same font as Ace, just as a joke to show solidarity. He even said publicly that Ace was one of the people he respected the most coming out of the villa. That's not just casual support, that's vocal, consistent loyalty. Meanwhile, Ace was ducking his calls, ignoring him on social media, and then turning around to do an interview that throws shade at both Nick and Alandria. How does that even add up? If you're mad at your boy for not backing you up in the way you wanted, fine. But then don't go and blast his relationship in front of thousands of people. That's not balance, that's spite. And it's not like Ace doesn't know what he's doing. He knows how fast speculation spreads. He knows how much the internet loves to pick apart these Love Island couples. So when he sits there silent instead of confirming the relationship is real, he's not just speaking for himself. He's giving the trolls ammunition. He's giving people permission to doubt something he knows nothing about anymore. It's the hypocrisy for me. In the villa, Ace was all about brotherhood and loyalty. Outside the villa, he's letting resentment twist into little digs that don't just hurt Nick, they hurt Alandria too. And honestly, it feels intentional. It feels like Ace resents the way Nicolandria captured the spotlight, and this is his way of chipping at that image. But here's the truth. No matter how many podcasts Ace sits on, no matter how many subtle digs he throws, Nick and Alandria are still standing strong. They're still moving as a unit. And the more Ace tries to cast doubt, the more obvious it becomes that the issue isn't their relationship, it's his bitterness. And then there's the herpes comment. Yes, you heard that right. Ace sat on that podcast and casually threw in this little implication, knowing full well that the only reason that rumor ever existed in the first place was because Charlie literally hit Nick in the face with a ball in the villa. And even Charlie cleared that up on AfterSun. Nick never had herpes. Period. So why bring it up? Why attach your former friend's name to something that damaging when you know the truth? It's reckless, it's messy, and it makes it crystal clear that this wasn't just an interview, this was a hit piece. Because Ace knows damn well you can't even get on the show if you have an STD. He knew what he was doing, and it was ugly. And let's not forget the timeline. This wasn't filmed months ago when emotions were raw. This was filmed after Shell's birthday. Recent, meaning Ace had every opportunity to pick up the phone, clear the air, and actually talk to Nick. But instead, he chose to blindside him in public. Nick didn't even know it was coming. He was literally in the comments of Speedy's post hyping the interview up, excited to support his friend. Meanwhile, Ace is sitting on that very same interview tearing him down. That's not just shady, that's cold. And if Ace's big problem was that Nick gave a PR-style answer instead of passionately defending him, guess what? Nick is allowed to protect his peace. Not everyone wants to feed into negativity. Not everyone wants to keep reliving villa drama months later. That's not disloyalty, that's maturity. At the end of the day, this whole thing exposes more about Ace than it does about Nick or Alandria, because Nick, he's still standing beside the people he loves. Alandria, she's thriving with her man. But Ace, he's out here contradicting himself, reopening old wounds, and inviting speculation that only drags everyone down. And honestly, it's disappointing, because a real friend, even an ex-friend, doesn't sit in silence when asked if someone's relationship is real. They either back them up or they keep it private. But this was about attention. This was about control, and it backfired. So the question isn't, is Nicolandria real? The question is, why is Ace so pressed about it when he clearly isn't in the loop anymore? And that's the part that's got everyone talking.